How's it going? What's going on?
Welcome to Accomplish Everything. I'm Shannon. And today, I wanted to talk about trying new things. Cool stuff. So let's talk about it.
What I wanted to talk about today was my journey into the wondrous world of sculpting. Ooh. Yes, sculpting, that ancient artistic profession that I probably couldn't do, right? So, when I decided I was going to try sculpting, I wanted to make something awesome, and I wanted to make something that had a reasonable margin of error. Something where, like, if I got a few things right, I probably got, the rest of it will come together. So the first thing I tried was this. Something from a movie that I cherish so much, but there isn't much out there for it. The Never-Ending Story. This was the very first thing that I sculpted. Very first. The rock biter from Never-Ending Story. So awesome. And this was my first experience ever sculpting anything outside of Play-Doh snakes. You know what I mean? And I really surprised myself. So I picked this because the only thing I really had to worry about, I thought, was the face sculpt. If I got the face sculpt right, if I got at least close enough to it, the rest, it's all a bunch of rocks together, so it's not clearly defined. The face is sort of defined, however, it is a bunch of rocks, so it's very forgiving, right? So if you look here at him, his glorious face, look at this little guy. What's he thinking about? All these little details here, the little rocks, the teeth, how kind of grimy they are. That's how he is in the movie. And so it was very forgiving. And I did this in sections, right? So the first thing I did was I tackled this face sculpt first. First thing was I tackled this. Because I figured once I got this, the rest of it's just, a rock body-ish, right? But this is the important part. Look at this, the beautiful face. Look at him. Look at him. Anyway, so I sculpted him. And when you sculpt, you don't want to just use clay, right? Because it would take forever to dry. So what I did was I used craft foam. The kind of foam that you would use in like a florist shop or something like that. Now, he looks very cool. But if you flip him upside down, you will see it. So you can tell what I did here. I'm sorry. You can see what I did here was I took craft foam and I cut it out with a hot wire and a box cutter. And then over the top, I added clay and I smushed it into the foam, right? So then I only had to use just this outside of clay. And then this filled him out and it made him more sturdy, things like that. Well, I cut out the sections for like his feet, his hands, stuff like that. And then as you can see, I hot glued them together. All right, there you go. Sorry. And so the very first thing I did, like I said, was the face sculpt. Now this is also my first attempt at really painting something outside of, a piece of paper or a canvas, right? But I am a big fan of crafting, and so I naturally watched a lot of videos about people making things, and all those videos kind of stored in the back of my brain like, oh, I should kind of do this, or I should try this thing that I saw. And so weathering, like his feet here, where he walks around, this has to be darker than than this part here. All those little details really helped me. And when I painted this, it looked like a mess at first because you're doing rock, and rock is so many different colors mixed into it. You can see browns and greens and grays and black and whites and silver colors, all that stuff. And all of those things, the more colors that you put into it, the more it conveys that this is a real object. You know, the more it looks like rock, because it's not just a flat gray. Worked on him, and I was very proud of my boy here. So awesome to put him on a shelf. He's great. So I was super happy. Once I put him on my bookshelf, I'm like, that's just so awesome. You know what? I really surprised myself on this. I wonder what else I could do. So I decided my next project, I was going to challenge myself with something that was a lot more clearly defined, and see if I could pull it off. So here was my next attempt. Yes, California Raisin. I sculpted this. Here, let me take this lid off here. All right. Now, I sculpted this in the same way with the craft foam and clay. Now, California Raisins are one of those things that look deceptively simple, right? You're like, hey, I could do that. It's just a clump of clay and you put a face on it. No. The artists at Will Vinton Studios were incredible, world-class artists. And the raisins had very specific face sculpts. Normally, they were sculpted from the performers that were portraying them, doing the voices and things like that. So the features on these are very tough to get right. I did not quite get what I was trying to go for. However, I feel like I pulled off a good general California raisin. It wasn't the specific one I was going for. I was going for AC. If you watched the kids animated movies that they had, that Will Vinton put out, of the California raisins, there are 4 main raisins: AC, Bebop, Red, and Stretch. I was going for the main lead singer, AC. And while I didn't quite get there, I was very proud of what I was able to accomplish. And I feel like I at least made it look like a regular raisin. Not the one that I was going for necessarily, but a good general California raisin. So when I did this, and when I do all my projects, I kind of do a deep dive in how these things were made. And even this one specifically, I did a lot of research into how tall they were, how big the bodies were in the proportions, and exactly how big I wanted to be, as close to accurate as I could possibly get when I made my own, because I'm such a fan of Will Vinton Studios and the California Raisins. So this guy, the body, the shoes, and the gloves are all foam with clay on top of it. And the arms and the legs, this is made out of armature wire, right? Armature wire, if you're not familiar, is just wire that you can bend a whole lot and it won't break, right? They use it a lot in stop motion, things like that, because you can just move it and it'll hold its place. Now, so it's the armature wire wrapped in heat shrink tubing for wire connections and things like that. And that's how they were originally made. It was armatures wrapped in heat shrink tubing. So some of the more challenging parts to this. Of course, that face sculpt. And when you go to do things like this, there's always details that you're like, oh, I didn't realize it was this complicated. Because like, I thought, hey, I could just, get a clump together and, sculpt away at it. Not really, because there's eyelids. You have to do the eyes underneath the eyelids, the eyes, underneath this bottom eyelid, the teeth, the tongue, all these things are tough. And then the other part that's tough were these gloves. Because it's something I didn't think about was that, I have to make fingers, and these have to be pretty small. So this is foam here, and then each one of these fingers is a smaller piece of foam that has a piece of wire running into the foam, and all covered in clay, and then all hand painted, just like I did all of this. So that was tough. And then, of course, you can probably tell I hot glued the armature wire into there, into the gloves, to hold them in place. So then I could also pose him. The shoes were another sort of challenging part because they were more detailed than I realized. But yeah, so there were lots of challenges here because I was trying to imitate a world-class group of artists' style. While the rock biter was something I was very proud of and very much surprised myself, this one was really like, okay, well, if I can do that, how close can I get to something awesome, right? And I feel like I pulled it off with this one. Like I said, not exactly the one I was going for, but a good general California raisin. And I had no clue that I could sculpt at all. Like I said, outside of Play-Doh snakes, things like that, I had never even attempted sculpting anything. But for an amateur, I think I did pretty okay. I think I did pretty good, and I really surprised myself, and I'm proud of these pieces. And it all came from just trying something new. I was like, hey, I've never done that before, but let's give it a shot. And it turns out, like I said, all the videos that I had watched kind of built up, some inside knowledge of how to do these things. The paint jobs, the sculpting themselves. I had never tried it myself, but it did give me a leg up when I went to go do these myself. And it turned out way better than I even imagined they would turn out. So I just want to show you guys that trying new things is awesome. And look, it's not very often. I am a middle-aged man in my 40s, and it's not often that I learn something new about myself that I didn't know, right? So I encourage you to try something new, something awesome, something you think, I don't know if I can even do that, because you just might surprise yourself and be really proud of the result.
Oh, is it over? Thanks for joining me today. And hope you try some cool new stuff that you didn't think you could ever do. So, see you later.